Me too. I am so, and I'm Laura Kelland-May. Hi there, everybody. Well, again, Randi Thompson. Hi, Randi. Randi is the founder of the Horse and Rider Awareness Educational Program. Randi coaches professionals in the horse world and has recently produced USDF regional and national winners through to the intermediate level. Her website, if you want to connect with her, is horseandriderawareness.com. And we also have with us this evening Jodi Lees. Jodi is a USDF Large R Dressage Judge and upgrading to Large S Judge in 2017, hopefully really soon, like January. That's what you're hoping for, isn't it, Jodi?
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
She has earned her USDF bronze, silver, and gold medals. And if you would like to connect with Jodi, you can do that at jodileesdressage.com. Now, I'm going to try to get those typed into the chat so that you can connect with them. And if you want to put your own website in the chat, love to have you do that. Just make sure you put the http:// and then your website name, and then it would be a hot link right in the chat so we can get right there to it. And Laura Kelland-May, I am a USEF Large R Equitation Judge and Senior Equestrian Canada Judge and Steward. And my website is thistleridgestables.com. And we're going to post links to those in the chat. So I want to thank everybody for being here. And right now, let's get a handle on where all you guys are from. So in the chat box, let's put in where you're coming from, where I'm coming from, and Jodi and Randi put in there where you are from. Oops. And I'm going to put in jodileesdressage.com.
I've already put mine in, so you don't have to do that.
Oh, good. And mine is thistleridgestables.com. So you guys can go and check that out. Excellent. Did anybody put in where they're from? I didn't see anything. Perfect. That's good. It's always exciting to see when people are coming. So we've got a tight schedule this evening before we get going. So stay engaged. And we have a lot of excellent and actionable tips that you can do right now so you can transform your riding and training with your horse. So put down the phone, turn it off, close those, otherwise you may lose a connection.
Wait, I want to turn my phone off. Hold on.
So if you find that things are lagging a bit, close down the other pages because that'll help prevent that from happening. And get a pen and paper because you might find you get some juicy little tips here that'll help you out. But there will be a replay and it'll be sent out to you automatically because it's automated when we get your, when you sign up for this one. So we've got 3 specific topics we're going to be talking about tonight. Topic 1 is called From the Judge's Box, where you get touched right from the Judge's Box. Topic 2 is Teaching Techniques and Tips. We're going to talk about some important tips regarding stretchy movements. And topic 3 is Horse Business 101. And if you stick around to the end, Randi and Jodi and I have a really exciting tidbit of information we're going to share with you at the end of it. Something coming up in the springtime. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the chat box because we're going to get to those as best as we can throughout the evening this evening. And then we have final wrap-up and questions, comments from everybody. So, are you ready to get started, ladies?
I'm super ready. I'm excited to start this, build on the basics today, and as these webinars progress and continue, that we get to explore topics in more and more depth. So it'll really be a fun journey, and looking forward to getting started.
Yes, we all are, and don't forget to go to our Facebook page, Dressage Instructors. That way you can keep up to date on everything that we're doing, because we are going to be providing more webinars. And we want your input as to what you're looking for, because, as I said, together we're going to make a difference for each other. So go right away to the Dressage Instructors page on Facebook and like that. And for those of you who are tweeters, don't forget, use the hashtag Dressage Instructors.
Excellent. Thank you for reminding everybody about that, Randy. So let's dig into our first topic from the judges box. Now, anybody who's been in the show ring, I think we've all been sitting in the judge's chair on the sidelines or from our armchair on the sidelines and thought to ourselves, you know, if that rider would just have made insert simple correction right here, she could have gotten a better score for that movement or something similar to that. So these are those simple but often overlooked items that could improve your test scores. And I think we've all done some things that we'd like to improve upon. So Jodi, what are one simple riders, competitors can do in their next training session to improve their test scores at their next horse show?
Well, I think the first thing that riders and as instructors that we really, really need to focus on is accuracy. And that may seem very basic, but we consistently see geometry that is inaccurate. And for every movement that it's inaccurate, it's taking at least a point off of the score. And sometimes more points than that. But before we go into that accurate geometry, I think that we need to bring up, there are resources that we should be using as trainers, as instructors, as riders. And 3 of those resources are simple to find. One is your dressage test sheet itself. It tells you the purpose of the level, so what the judges are looking at, what the purpose of the level is as far as the training of the horse goes. And it also gives you a directive in every single movement. What is the judge looking for? So that in and of itself is a tool that you as an instructor can use when you're talking with your students about their dressage tests. The second thing is the USEF rulebook. If you would go, and you would be fascinated at how much information there is in the dressage section. Definitions, explanations of movements, diagrams, basically everything you need to know to go down that center line. And we forget about that tool. And I open it up and then I'm like a nerd. I get caught in the rule book like I can't get out. I forget how much information is in that rule book. So go there and then teach your students how to use that rule book to ask you questions and you know, kind of supplement their own education. And then the third thing, which is super important, and not everyone has it available, so you have to figure out a way to make it available for your students, and that is the use of a dressage court. Riders have to familiarize themselves and their horses with the dimensions and the parameters of a dressage court. And without that practice and that familiarization, it's very difficult to ride an accurate test, which is what we're getting to. So if you bear with me, and actually, if there are any eventers out there, I'm just going to mention this. You would never go into your stadium course without having practiced jumping a vertical or an oxer or a combination or making a turn to another fence. And so eventers out there who are in general kind of lax on getting in the dressage ring, get in that dressage ring and figure out how to ride your tests more accurately. When your student rides accurately, what is that showing the dressage judge? It's basically showing that student has control of the horse and has command of the test. And then also there are other things that are gained by riding accurate tests. If you're practicing accuracy, you're going to improve balance, you're going to improve connection, and you're going to improve the partnership. So that in and of itself, just practicing accuracy is going to start to enhance a lot of other factors that start to provide the basis for your riders or you becoming a better dressage rider.
And higher scores.
Yes, and therefore higher scores. We're talking about in tests. I mean, all of those factors come into effect in every movement and in the collections at the bottom of the test. So the collective marks at the bottom of the test. So though, you know, using the rule book, using your dressage test, familiarizing yourself with a dressage court really will help enhance your student scores in the dressage ring. So the 2 things as far as geometry that we're going to cover tonight or talk about a little bit tonight are that as judges we see quite often, we see that circles aren't written accurately, that straight lines aren't written accurately. So if we start with the circles, there are in the array of dressage tests, there are 20 meter, 15 meter, 10 meter, and 8 meter circles. And the 8 meter circles we see in 4th level and St. George, and you would be surprised as judges how often those circles are not correct. So it's something that geometry is important throughout your career as a dressage rider, and not just for your beginner 20 meter circle riders. What we often see, we see oblong circles, we see circles that shrink, we see shoulders falling out and haunches falling in, haunches falling out and shoulders falling in, and that, you know, that just shows the lack of control that your riders have over those horses. So now it comes to how do we improve those circles? What are some exercises or things we can think about to improve those circles? And the first thing that I would say is that you need to teach your riders what are the 4 points of a circle. Every circle has 4 points. And of course, as you get the 15 meter and 8 meter circles are a little harder because they don't have an easy marker to them. But let's start with a simple 20 meter circle. Let's start with going to the left, 20 meter circle to the left. So we start at B. That's your first point of your circle. Your second point is going to be on the center line. And that is going to be 2 meters inside the RS line, or 6 feet inside the RS line. Your third point is going to be, E. Your fourth point is again going to be on the center line. Again, it's inside the PV line by 2 meters or 6 feet. So really having a way to show your students where those points are is very important. You can use cones and drag your foot around the arena and show a line. And I think, Randi, you have some other ways of maybe teaching that circle.
Well, circles are amazing because they're not, you know, dressage, we know dressage is really training of a horse and rider. So a correct circle is used, like you said, in eventing. It's used in almost every discipline. You need to have a horse that's balanced, which means that they're even, you know, moving with even strides and all that stuff. But I found in my time as I was working with instructors and stuff that riding circles is a hard thing to teach to anybody. How do you teach it? So I started using, you know, basically a lunge line, because I could take a lunge line and make it 20 meters, or I could make it 10 meters or 8 meters, put the rider on the edge of the, you know, on the end of the lunge line, have them lunge around me. And all they have to do, this sounds so simple, it's really not simple at all. All they have to do is not let the lunge line drag on the ground or pull me out of the center. Now, I have to admit that even professionals that do this are really surprised at how their horse isn't in the right balance to be able to do a circle of whatever size they want. So at first, when the riders get in there and the horses are wobbling all over the place and the lunge line's dropping on the ground and it's pulling me out of the center. And then as the riders start figuring it out, they realize that, you know, they're not positioning the horse to be in the right balance for that type of a circle. And you find that's a big deal for you too, right? Jodi, with what you're doing, because as a dressage judge, it's so easy to see. They go on their circles. That's part of the scores, right?
Yeah, and like I said, it shows that you don't have control over the horse, that, you know, you need to have that inside leg to outside rein. You need to be able to create that balance throughout the circle. One of the things that I see, and Laura, I want to ask you too, but one of the things that I see quite often is that riders ride a circle from their inside leg. Now, 20 meter circle is a little harder to do that, but the 8 and the 10 and the 15 meter circles, they ride the circle line from their inside leg, which means the whole outside of the horse is hanging outside of the circle, and therefore the circle's bigger and not going to be round. And of course, dressage is based on that inside leg to outside rein concept. That outside rein and leg have to define the circle line. So that's exactly right. When you get on a lunge line like that, you start to define that.
Jodi, can I change one thing there, your terminology? Because we're all working together, and that's inside rein and leg to outside rein and leg. So many people forget it's got to be both sides of the wall. even when
I think you're exactly right.
As dressage instructors, we need to have the right terminology, because so many people out there are saying inside leg to outside rein. So they're forgetting half of their half of what they have.
That's a good point, Randi.
You're exactly right. Laura, did you have any helpful hints on teaching?
Yeah, well, first of all, I wanted to say I was really happy to hear you say that it's not just the 20-meter circle people. Like I do judging at the intro level, training level, first level, second level, and that's where you get the 20-meter circles or the 20-meter oblongs or footballs or fried eggs or grapes or whatever they are. But I'm glad to hear you say that. That seems to be almost a chronic thing over all the levels, that it's not just that it's people need to practice their circles.
Absolutely. So absolutely. Yeah, it's very common throughout. So I know that. Did you have another hint or a helpful hint for riding a circle?
Yeah, I know I was really lucky. I had some very good instructors when I was learning how to ride, and one of my instructors, this was a long time ago too, she would get us to count the steps in the circle so that we knew exactly how many steps were in a 20-meter circle, and the first half of the circle should have the same number of steps as the second half of the circle. And the first quarter of the circle should have the same number of steps as the second quarter, so third quarter is the fourth quarter. So it was always the same number of steps. And so when you went into that ring, when you went into the competition, you knew, well, I know I have to get X number of steps to have a 20-meter circle. And if I didn't have the right number of steps, well, I knew it wasn't a 20-meter circle. So that's
and it's funny because I've only heard of counting steps like on your diagonal line in your medium or extended canters or trots. And it's so funny that you say that, because I just posted an article on our Facebook page, the Dressage Instructors Facebook page, that was an interview of Carl Hester. And in that interview, he talks about people needing to recognize that they have to know exactly how many steps are in their circles. And that's how they can, in a test, tell whether they're on track or not. And
the only thing about that would be
all the time. That was something I've never been introduced to. So it's really fun that you say that you were taught that a long time ago.
And it's, I guess the only thing you have to make sure is that you start the circle in the right spot, because if you have 20 steps in your circle, if it's not in the right spot, it's going to be the right size, but
well, even talking about the right spot, one of the things that we talked about is most riders don't know where to leave the rail. Like they should be positioned for a circle. When was that, Jodi? You were saying when the rider's leg is even with the leg.
On a circle, it's as you're approaching that letter. So when your leg is approaching that letter, the horse's shoulder and your leg kind of right in there, that's when you should be starting your circle. It's a little bit different for your diagonal lines. Your diagonal lines, you want to start as soon as the shoulder hits that letter. But the key is that it takes practice, and as instructors, we get moving on to other things and we kind of let those basics slide. And then we've all stood outside the ring thinking, oh my gosh, I really failed to help my student really ride that circle well, and those are things that really will enhance their scores and their ability to connect with their horse and control their horse. Circles, I think, are the 18 and the 8 meter, because they don't have they don't always have the marker. Like the 8 meter doesn't go to the center line. The 20 meter in the circle is a little harder because it doesn't go to that RSVP line. It stays inside. And some students work well when you talk to them in meters. I know the dressage court by meters now, but if you try to do anything else in meters to me, I roll my eyes in the back of my head.
Me too.
So you can see students just go blank, and you can see others that get it. They get the math, so you have to find different ways of talking about that arena, but they need to understand how the arena is set up, where the letters are set, and how that influences their figures.
Hey, Jodi, is there a place where we can show people the dressage geometry? Can you put something on the dressage instructors Facebook page to show the geometry?
I will do my best to do that, but I'm going to go right on back to that rule book. That rule book has diagrams. It has all of the geometry in it. It is an amazing resource. Yeah. So I would suggest that everyone, because once you start opening that dressage section, you're not going to want to close it. Right. You're going to just keep reading and go, wow, I can't believe all this is in this rule book. It's fascinating, and it really should be something we should just give to every student that we have. Right.
So we can put a link up to I think we could do an entire webinar just on geometry, dressage geometry, because it's so important and people really need to understand it, and that is something that people really need to see as well. So I think we're going to have to move on to our next topic so we can cover up more stuff. But go to the Dressage Instructors Facebook page after the webinar and go and see what kind of resources we have there. Jodi's going to post a link to the geometry of the USDF, the dressage rules for the USDF dressage. And if you have some comments, put them in the chat here. We'd like to hear some of your comments. And make sure you post it on Twitter as well using the hashtag dressage instructors. But we're going to have to move on. Sorry about that, Jodi.
No, that's great. There's always more. There's always more. But practice. And you have to get your students to practice that accuracy. It's not going to just come from one little, ride in the dressage court. So,
yeah. We have to move on to our second topic. So we're going to be moving on to some teaching techniques.